Bonjour! Hi! In this demo section of episode 44, I'm with Shannon Kuehn, and she had a great demo. It's the perfect expression where we can go back in time, do it the hard way with REST API, very basic PowerShell code to create an Azure storage. And then, moving forward in the second part, we will do it using the SDK. Let's have a look.
When I was doing all of that work with that customer and we were getting them off of their patching provider, I had found this function. It's the cached access token. So it's a bearer token script, and you have to be logged into Microsoft before it works, right? And this is important when you're authenticating and doing things against the Azure Service Fabric. So you're creating a storage account, you're moving files around, you are, building out Azure Automation runbooks. This becomes, I joke a lot, this is like the poor man's version. Like technically what you probably should be doing is a service principal, but a lot of times you're just trying to figure out if something works. So this, and I could put this in the chat here because I really like this a lot. You just have to be logged in for this to work. So this is the quick PowerShell script, right? And it's, so what we'll do is we can run this real quick here.
You cannot put it in the Twitch chat because it's a URL. Put it in in our call chat, and I will paste it for you.
Sure. I didn't even know that. Well, I'm glad you are here helping.
Well, since it's a Microsoft channel, some things are moderated automatically, and URL is one of them. So you need to be a moderator.
Gotcha. Okay, so here is, makes sense. So this is a great one to take a look at, right? And I think a lot of devs who are familiar with PowerShell like this function. So I'll run it real quick here and I'll show what happens, right?
Oh, I know.
I'm gonna say, yeah, I was gonna say you might know him. So
I know him. He's my friend.
Oh, there you go.
He's also a Montreal guy.
Oh, really? How funny.
He was the first MVP guest on All Around Azure.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You'll have to tell him.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, I didn't spell it right. I was like, why won't this tab?
I'll definitely ping him and tease him after the stream.
Yeah, tell him that this has been a lifesaver for me to figure out how to interact with REST APIs. So when I run this, you'll get the awesome bearer token, and I will now minimize it because, well, actually, I'll just do this. I'll clear it out. But you'll see that the bearer token hits off of the fact that I'm already logged in, and I'm logged into remote PowerShell. So when I was working with the storage team, they didn't want me to use PowerShell to try and create a storage account at first, right? Because I think that's pretty straightforward, and I'll showcase a script that creates a storage account. They wanted me to try and interact with the REST API directly. Well, it turns out you can do it, but it's not a super straightforward reality, and it took me a little bit here to kind of get this working. So I just ran the bearer token as the variable, and then we have to prepare our header, which needs that bearer token, and then it needs to be the content type of application whack JSON. Then you have to formulate the body, right? And so here I'm calling out the SKU, and we had talked about this, and I can showcase this. I've got a slide that might be a good one to showcase as we kind of end this this section of sorts, right? And then you specify the kind, and we talked about this in the last stream. So there's a handful of kinds here, and I call them out in the script up here, right? So storage v2 is the newest storage account. In fact, it's what's getting all of the new feature sets. So the idea is anything that's built from here on forward should probably be storage v2. I think right now you might still need to build out a regular storage account for your ASR replication logs, right? I think that might be another one that requires the old format. I know at some point they will be getting over here to storage v2. We can tie it to East US, and then you plug in your tags, you're converting all this to JSON, and then this is the actual REST API call itself, right? So if you look at it, it's a pretty long call.
And seriously, the just pipe converted to JSON?
It did for me.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I would say it did for me. And so from there, I was able to then plug that into the REST API call.
Yeah.
And it's been a bit since I've looked at this, but I did run through everything prior to our call today. But yeah, so I was just shocked at the level of code. And maybe what I do here is I go over here to the create storage account just as a reference, right? It's much smaller. I'm like, oh, I get it. This is why you want to lean on an SDK, or this is why you want to lean on PowerShell or the AZ CLI or an ARM template, right? The idea here is, it's clear, more succinct. It's not squirrely. You don't have to lean on a bearer token.
Yep.
So let's do this. Let's and then I put in some keys here. I thought this would be relevant to the and I also love good food, right? But and it shows up. It's good stuff. So let's see. I think I can run this whole thing. And what I will do here is I will run the selection and I will move this up, and we get this storage account. So it didn't take that long to run it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think the amount of time that it took for me to figure out the right way to formulate this, that was just a mind-numbing sort of reality. So prior to SDKs, it really gave me a feel for what developers had to go through, right? When they had to form those, I think it was the SOAP calls and REST API without leaning on any sort of tooling. Like you can make it all work. It was just super squirrely. So if we go over here into, this is the resource group. Hopefully, there it is. There's the storage account. And you see the tags are down there. It's storage v2. It's geo-redundant, right? But I mean, just the reality here is looking at that raw API going, oh gosh.
And then if someone want to change a name or change something, then now they need to kind of understand that code to see what they need to change and everything.
Right. And it was one of those things where it opened up my mind to what came prior. So it was a great kind of history lesson of sorts, right? Yeah. So then I was like, well, this is super awesome. And then, if we were to run this, we declare these variables. Oops. And I think let's see. So we'll run the selection. I already have the resource group created, so we can run this. So much less code, and it's going to kick out the storage account at the end here. A couple of hops. So when you go get coffee. No, I'm kidding. It shouldn't take too long, and then it should actually spit out the. Well, it should spit it out. Every once in a while, I love how the demo gods aren't super. There we go. Shan Storage 7. So it takes a little bit of time here to show up in the portal, but I don't know, this was just a cool reality of going through this whole notion here, right? So formulating the API call, right? So the API call for storage account creation is just the management.azure.com subscriptions. Then you formulate the subscription ID, pass in the resource group, make sure that you're looking at the right provider, storage accounts, plug in the storage account name. This is one of the API versions, and kind of plugging it all together like that.
Oh, and also Phil Snabel mentioned, when you do concatenation like that of information and stuff like that, was the slash was included, not? Should I put it there? What if there's already one?
Correct. Yep. And that caused a lot of squirreliness when I was trying to make this work. So I kept, what I kept doing was I kept rerunning the actual variables, like what actually got stored and why wouldn't this work. And so it was kind of a crazy exercise just to wrap my head around the work that devs had to do prior to all of these great SDKs and the right tooling to hook into environments. So I really appreciated this challenge, but holy smokes, was it hard to kind of get it to work. And then I found this really great script. So I always feel like I never have a great example script to create files, right? Well, I found this great, so this lives in, and I couldn't find the link before the show, but this lives in the Azure samples repo for the high throughput blob tutorial. And I tweaked it ever so slightly, but what it's doing here is I created another function, right? And I passed through a couple parameters. So I need the file number, I need the file size, and the file path. And I wrote some notes up here, and I think really what I owe to you, Frank, is I have some of this living in a GitHub repo. I should probably put the rest of it up there and give you that link too, right? Wouldn't that be a fun one?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And then what it does is it just creates the file path. It sets a location, and then this little bit here is technically C#, believe it or not. And I could not even try and tell you that I did this on my own. No, I copied and pasted and tweaked and made it work, and I can get files to generate inside of a local file path. So this was always helpful too. So let's see, let's run this.
Oh, that's PowerShell.
It is, but this part in here is C#.
Oh, IO file. Yeah.
And so I didn't realize that's what it was until I realized you could call C# classes. So again, like that achievement unlocked sort of thing. I mean, I really definitely joke now, if I can do it, really you can do it too. And there should be no apprehension. It's a little squirrely. It's a little weird to kind of make it all work, but it's definitely a great exercise to go through this.
Like one step more crazy in that is, it's true that you can call C# or an exe or a DLL, like a library, from PowerShell. That's, I think personally, right at the beginning, super crazy. And that, just like Rambos Cabral was mentioning, the io.file is a namespace.
Oh, it's a namespace. Sorry. I just play a dev on TV.
No problem. Like it's a library. It's just like a collection. They group that, make library and stuff like that. One step further, if we turn it to 11, right, is you are inside an Azure function.
Yes.
So the Azure function will see that, oh, I need that library, and use it. So you could call from an Azure function, and like something external of the Azure function. And that's something that is created on the fly. The Azure function doesn't exist until you call it.
Yeah, which is a tribute to the ways in which all of these tools glue together, right? Yeah. I can't even imagine, like, and I kept trying to imagine myself as a dev in like the late 80s, early 90s, right? Trying to figure out how to make some of this stuff work without the tools that we have today, right? I'm like, I would have failed miserably and probably quit and done something else. Like maybe would have gone become a lawyer or something, right? But now we have all of these tools that sort of help you get to where you need to be. Oh, yeah. And the beauty is a lot of this lives on GitHub. A lot of this, people share repos back and forth. They'll share code snippets, examples. The gists on GitHub are awesome. I think they're gist, or maybe they're GIFs. I can't remember. Like the shorter little code snippets, all of it becomes super helpful to try and make sense of how it works. Yep. So I'll run this real quick here.
Yeah, sure.
And then we have to specify a couple of variables. So I'll call it. And then we have to specify the file number. I'll just do 100, right? And then the file size, so it's the bytes. That's why I have the cheat sheet, because I feel like it's easier to do that than it is to pull out a calculator.
I'm not one of those guys who remember those numbers anyway. Right. I agree with you.
And then, so let's see. And I'll do storage account 1. Now, I've noticed the way that this is written, I need to put that in there as well. So this will create the files, and they now live on this machine here in the demo. So storage account now has 100 files that are all a megabyte in size. So this was super helpful just to create a bunch of local files, right? And I can even run through it, I guess, one more time, right?
Okay, you create it.
And then, I fat fingered it. That's what I always said, fat fingered. I used to do sysadmin work, so it's one of those things where, let's fill my buffer. Let's just.
Oh, my bad. Earlier I thought the function was an Azure function, just a function.
No, it's just a regular function.
Yeah.
But I think you can do the same thing.
Yeah. That's why I like the param and like the because you said it was like in the GitHub, and I thought that was like an older GitHub, and that was the one of the nomenclature. Is it nomenclature in English? Whatever. Like how to declare an Azure function.
Right.
Like an Azure function will be very similar to that, and like you could do that also.
Yeah. So the actual this comes from the high throughput block blob, there is a .NET executable that is in that tutorial. And what you run through is so you build out a server in Azure and you run a PowerShell script on that server, and it does more than what this script does here, but this is the meat and potatoes of it. So I kind of applauded myself a little bit in the sense that I wasn't a dev and I could kind of figure out what to tweak and pull out and massage and make it be what I wanted it to be. So I was like, yeah, maybe I am kind of a dev. But yeah, so this just creates a bunch of local files. And then I wanted to showcase like what a raw upload using the API directly looks like, right? So the actual headers involved without leaning on like a shared access signature key is a little wonky. So I thought this might be a good opportunity to showcase how to generate like a SAS token, right? So so what I'll do here is, so I gotta get a couple of these. Let's go back here. Let's get Shan Storage 99. So I was playing around with these. So we'll change this to 99, and then I will go into Azure Storage Explorer. So this is always one I like a lot. I blame my background. I'm a server admin, so we love GUIs. Maybe we shouldn't, but we do. So I don't know if folks are familiar with this tool, but I kind of think of it like Windows Explorer for blobs specifically. So, you can take a look at what you've got here. Obviously, I play around with storage a lot, so I have a bunch of different storage accounts. Let's go in here to Shan Storage 99. The way this works is you've got an opportunity to take a look at blob containers, file shares, queues, and tables. So it's a really quick way of seeing what lives in the storage account. Right now, I don't have any blob containers, so let's create a blob container, and we'll call it unstructured files, because I believe that's what I have in my script. Let me double check. It is. Perfect. Then we'll just leave it there. Now, what I want to create next is, I want to do it. Yeah, I want to do it down here. I want to create a shared access signature. And I just want to be able to read and to write. Doesn't have to be a full day. I'll keep it today. I'll make it be 2 hours from now. And so it'll be local time, right? And I'm, in Chicago. You can always change it to UTC, or you can adjust this as it seems. When I was playing around with this a number of weeks back, it doesn't like about the 5 to 10 minute mark. So that's why I was like, look, I'll keep it at about 2 hours. This should work just fine. And what this does is it allows this call into this storage account access to this specific container without needing to authenticate. So when devs are building things and they aren't necessarily logging in with a username and a password, you can think about leaning on a shared access signature or a SAS token to be able to have an app drop files in, store data, etc. And it's one way to think about securing your storage account. That way it's not sitting out there publicly accessible. So I'll go ahead and I'll hit create.
Yep.
And then I will grab the query string. And I will put this here.
I'll just share in the chat also if people are interested to get the Storage Explorer. It's a fantastic tool.
It's great. It's a great tool.
It runs on Mac, Linux, Windows. Really, really cool.
Yeah, and it's awesome, and it gets regular updates too. So
I was about to say that it's very alive.
Yeah, it's kind of like Visual Studio Code, except I think Visual Studio Code gets an update once a month. I feel like they're on like the once a quarter sort of thing. So I make sure this
maybe more, or maybe because
maybe
it's I'm in sequence sometime, like on my PC on the laptop. I feel like I have every second week I have a stuff, but it could be just because I'm switching machine that I have that impression.
Yeah, and I don't touch it every single day like I did when I was on the Blob Storage team and kind of working in conjunction with them. So it's been a bit since I've been in it regularly, but it almost feels like every time I fire it up, I've got an update. So they're adding all of the new features that you see inside the Blob Storage realm, inside of the disks realm, so I can showcase that here in a second. But yeah, so the idea of this is also hitting the raw API. I'll store all of these. These are the variables. Right, so it's just taking a look, it's adding the headers, and so instead of the bearer token in this realm, we're leaning on the SAS token. So I'm just going to go through and I'm going to iterate. I'm going to say for each file and files, right, so that's living in this file path, let's invoke that REST method, let's move the file over, And let's see if it goes into the storage account, which it should. And then you're getting all of the verbose responses. And when we go in here, so let's close. Let's refresh. We should start to see the files show up in here, which is kind of cool, right?
Definitely.
So, but it's one of those things where it's like, I didn't realize how much more code you have to think about if you're hitting the raw API. Like, it was just this huge, like, aha moment. I wouldn't shut up about it for about 2 or 3 weeks with the team. They were like, okay,
I wrote 10 son about it.
Yeah. And they were just so enamored, though, that I was so proud of myself for figuring it out. Now, granted, I couldn't have done it on my own. Google did help. And then I asked a couple of dev friends too, hey, what am I missing here? Like, this keeps falling on its face, so to speak. But yeah, so that was kind of a cool reality related to, me struggling through it, making sense of it. And, this is kind of like I said, the SAS token's a little easier for this raw upload example. Without it, the actual headers are pretty complex. So anybody who's ever played around with the .NET SDK, you're familiar with the ways in which you have to formulate that call. Well, I did that .NET code. I think a lot of apps sometimes don't lean on the SDKs because maybe there's a reason they don't, right? But I have seen stuff out there, and it's a lot of what looks like carriage returns. Again, I'm not a dev, I just kind of play one on TV. But, realizing that I could also use the SAS token and hit the raw API was another aha moment. So this is another unique way of accessing blob storage without needing to put in a username and a password, do MFA, etc. You can time box a SAS token and get that in there. And there's all kinds of cool automation you can think about related to SAS tokens as well. I've worked with shops that build really sophisticated things surrounding the ways in which they build and essentially decom or sunset their SAS tokens. So there'll be very short-lived SAS tokens to do a very descriptive thing over the course of, say, 30 minutes, and then it's done. So it's kind of a cool reality on that front. In fact, I know we were joking about this at one point. Maybe what I do here is I create a quick blob container. I'll call it pics, right? So let me do this. I believe, no, I have to change it here. That's right. So we'll change the public access level to public access for containers and blobs. And then I'll upload a quick picture. So I'll pick one of my cat pictures. I'll do the human I request assistance. We'll upload it. Takes a second here. And once it's there, you can right click on the object and grab the URL. So Frank, I'm going to pass this URL to you because it'll be publicly accessible. Right? So if I go inside here and I
I'm assuming you wanted me to put it in a chat, right? Because
yes,
that's
correct,
what I did.
Correct. Yep, correct. Yep. So human, I request your assistant. No. Yeah, no. And I think we were trying to think of like fun, unique things to do with the audience too. So again, this is a publicly accessible storage account. I set, or take that back. It's the blob container itself. So now we're going to change.
Was it one of your cat?
No, it's not one of my cats, but it is a funny cat meme, and I feel like the internet needs more of these. I think that's what we're missing nowadays. We're too busy fighting with our entire family. No, I'm kidding. But I think the internet has all of these great memes. So I found this one. I thought it was hilarious. I do have a cat that looks kind of similar, but not quite the same. And then what you can wind up doing here is you can think about changing that public access level.
So now it's time to try it. Chat. Go click on that link before she changed the access so you can see that. Oh, is it done already?
Well, hang on. I can change the access tier again. Sorry, not the access tier, the public access level. So let's do this. We'll do public access for containers and blobs. Give it a second and then try it.
So let me know if you can see that image, chat.
Yeah, and it'll just be this one right here, the human I request your assistance.
Yeah, I can see it on my side.
Okay, perfect. And then this is a way to think about, visually seeing how you plug in a SAS token, right? So I just generated it before, and I can generate it again. So we're going to change the access level. We're going to move it to no public access. This way you could store whatever you needed to, right? But if you needed to get a shared access signature on this file specifically, you can do it. I only need read in this instance. And I'm going to choose today. I'm going to choose 2 hours from now. Read only. Let's hit create. Now the full URI is the way you access it in this scenario. Frank, I will send this to you that way.
Yeah. So now by just pasting the previous URL, it's not working anymore.
Oh no!
I see resource not found.
I moved it too fast. I'll leave this up. This will be up for a while.
Like it was working. We had responses in the chat that it was working, and then now it's locked. So I'm assuming it will only work with that new URL.
With the SAS token. Yep. Yeah. So grab the full URI. So everything question mark on. That's the SAS token itself.
Yep.
Essentially, that declares the permission, that declares how long it's valid. So if you access that 4 hours from now, you won't see that file anymore. But if you access that for the next 2 hours, you'll be able to see the hilarious cat asking for human assistance.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool because now if I try to hit directly the URL without the token, I got the, what's the message?
Resource not found.
Resource not found message.
Yeah.
And if I click with the token, it works. So that's pretty cool because now very easily, without any programmation, right? You just open the UI and just you did it using that tool. Like when you want to share stuff to a colleague, to someone, you could use that.
Yeah.
And give person, hey, I leave you, you know, for a day or half a day or a few hours, you can pick that file or whatever. And after that, lock automatically, so you don't forget those somewhere and like.
Correct. And there's interesting automation that can be done around the shared access signature as well. I always like to rush it and then I trip over my words. But that's another way to think about it as well. Like you can build up automation surrounding this where it's just constantly, you know at the end of the month you have to run something and somebody needs access to 5 specific files to do their job function. You could build up automation that deposits those files into a storage account, creates a shared access signature, and then you share that with said person. It's valid for an hour or 2 hours or however long you determine is the right thing. That can all be done with code too, right? So I've worked with some customers that have some interesting workflows. This adds a lot of different unique, I guess, security controls if you're thinking about it on that front. And you can like my actual script itself showcases, you can use that SAS token and hit the raw API directly. You could also use that SAS token and copy the URI over to somebody that you know and trust, somebody you work with, right? This is really key though. You don't want this to be around for forever because it's like unauthenticated access into a specific solution, right? That's why you always want to time box these anytime you give these out. You don't want to have it be active for a year, 2 years, 5 years, probably more like an hour or 2 at most.
Yeah. And you mentioned automation 2 times. If you mention that 3 times, you just cast Jason, right?
So does he appear in this Twitch stream? He should.
He should, huh?
He shows up like a genie.
I'm not prepared for that though, but we have that in I'm part of the live coders. I don't know if you know that team on Twitch. It's multiple different streamers together, and the team name is Live Coders. And one of us is Robert Tables, I think there's a S at the end. So if you say containers or 3 times or Docker 3 times, then he appear in the chat. Like he hear that and it just like spawn in the chat and Robert Tables. Thank you, sure.
I love it.
Yeah, so a lot of time when we are in a stream and you're struggling with containers, you say container, and like boom, you show up.
He shows up. Automation, you get Jason Hand. That sounds hilarious. I feel like that should be one of our takeaways from this. Like when we retweet this stream, we'll type in automation, and then we'll tag Jason and he'll be like, hey guys,
Jason
leave
there.
Yeah.
He's
gonna be like, leave me out of your nerdiness, all right?
I'm trying to work.
Right? Let's see. So we did get a question. So let's see. So can you kill the SAS token earlier? Oh yeah, there you go. Add it to your do list. So I think it's certainly dev, right? So could I kill it off? You can always kill off. Well, no, actually, now that I think about it, I think it's live and valid for however long you specify.
So
it's
if you
kind of
create
like
a mistake, you were targeting an hour, but then like you did a really bad calculation and it's 1 month. You cannot delete it before? I'm assuming yes. Maybe not with the UI.
I don't think you can with the UI. So I think what you would want to do in that scenario is move the files around to a different storage account and like remove that container, right? Then you protect yourself, right? That's probably the way I would think about doing it. But I know SAS tokens are kind of like the app passcodes that you'll generate, like the one-time app passcodes. So, back before Outlook was ready for all of the MFA goodness that we have now, you had to generate app passcodes. So it would be that one-time passcode that would only work with, whatever specific device was accessing it, and you had already gone the route of creating it. So you just have to probably move some files around, recreate the permission boundary, and then destroy what you had done before. Hopefully that makes sense.
You don't like the fact that Azure Storage is case sensitive? Yeah, but it is important though.
Yeah, so it deals with all the DNS. So it's a globally unique namespace.
But I think they did change something now. I forgot.
It's possible.
I think Azure Storage in the last API or something like that. Now they changed something, but I forgot where I read that. I would need to dig into my reading notes. Because
the files
they update something over there.
Yeah, the files could be mixed case. So like whatever files live in your storage account, this could be mixed case in here. It's not because I'm just taking the file GUID in my script. But this could be mixed case. This could have periods. This could have dashes. This could have special characters. The way that the actual storage world works is we match on the actual storage account and the blob container. Yeah. Whatever you do at this level is up to you and your discretion. Because remember, we're holding this for you in a globally distributed fashion. So we have to be able to match the partition layer up correctly with your logical area of Azure, if that makes sense. So, that's why it is a lowercase storage account, and I think it's still lowercase storage account, and lowercase blob container. But everything living underneath the blob container could be mixed case, special characters. It could have spaces in the name, Yeah.
Historically, the storage account was lowercase, no dashes, like very limited, and like minimum and maximum was like, it was one of the more restricted name in Azure. Yeah. But I think they lose that recently, but don't take my word for it. But
I know you can do dashes now. I don't know if you can do periods because if you think about
that will mix up with the URL.
Yeah, it'll mix the URI, right? But I know you can add dashes in there. I'm not sure about special characters, but yeah, that's just one of the known things of Azure, right? Same thing, and I think Cosmos DB is another one that you have to have a globally unique name and has to trickle on through and be unique to that specific thing. Yeah. We've got a handful of those services. But I mean, if you think about it, you could do camel case everywhere. You could do mixed case on everything else. Your VMs could have uppercase, lowercase. I think there's a lot more flexibility, but I think, some of these more restrictive naming conventions are just something you have to get, used to, right? But I've worked with customers who've built out automation and accounted for it. So I know it's all codable, and it just depends upon what your naming convention is like related to the company you're working for.
I hope you liked this demo and I hope it was useful. If you're interested to learn more, leave a comment in the section below and tell us what you would like to see next. I'm Frank Boucher and I will see you in the next one.